Imagine you're building a house. You've picked the perfect location, and from the outside, everything looks solid. But beneath the surface, there's a crack in the foundation. It's small at first, barely noticeable, but over time, that crack can grow, weakening the entire structure. The same thing happens in businesses. Internal vulnerabilities, small cracks, can weaken your organization if they go unnoticed. As a vigilant leader, it's not just about watching for external threats like new competitors or market changes. You'll also need to be keenly aware of what's happening inside your organization. These internal vulnerabilities can be anything from outdated processes to unmotivated teams, communication breakdowns, or even complacency. Many companies get blindsided not because they fail to see external threats, but because they ignore their internal weaknesses until it's too late. Identifying and addressing these vulnerabilities early is key to maintaining organizational health. Internal vulnerabilities are weaknesses or gaps within your organization that could lead to failure or hinder your ability to adapt to future challenges. They come in many forms, some obvious, others subtle. For example, you might have a fantastic product and a loyal customer base, but if your internal communication is poor, information gets lost and teams become inefficient. Or maybe you've got a talented team, but their skills are becoming outdated as technology advances. These are vulnerabilities that can quietly undermine your success. Take the case of Nokia, once a leader in mobile phones. Internally, they were slow to innovate and had a rigid culture that resisted change. By the time they recognized the threat of smartphone, it was too late. Their internal vulnerabilities, lack of agility and innovation, were their undoing. So, how do you find these vulnerabilities? That's where risk assessment comes in. Conducting a risk assessment is like giving your business a thorough checkup. You're looking for anything that could potentially harm the organization, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem at first. Start by asking these questions. What processes are we using that feel outdated? Are there any areas where teams are consistently struggling or underperforming? Do we have the right skills and knowledge to meet future challenges? How strong is our company culture? Is it fostering innovation, or is there resistance to change? Are we relying too heavily on one product, service, or customer base? These questions help you map out the potential risks within your organization and determine where the vulnerabilities lie. And the sooner you identify them, the sooner you can fix them. And there's also the role of data in risk assessment. In today's world, data is your best friend when it comes to risk assessment. Vigilant leaders don't rely on gut feeling alone. They turn to data to uncover patterns and pinpoint issues. Whether it's employee feedback surveys, financial reports, or performance metrics, the data can provide a clearer picture of where things might be going wrong. Let's say you run a manufacturing company and your production output has been slowing down, but no one can quite figure out why. By analyzing your data, you might discover that the machinery hasn't been maintained properly, and there's been a slowdown in one specific department. The data provides insights that might not be immediately visible on the surface. A good example of this in action is Amazon. They use vast amounts of data to monitor everything, from employee productivity to customer satisfaction. This constant analysis allows them to catch small issues before they become big problems, keeping the business running smoothly. Now, one of the most common internal vulnerabilities in organizations is the existence of silos. Silos happen when departments or teams operate in isolation, without communicating effectively with each other. When this happens, critical information gets trapped within one part of the company, and other teams miss out on important insights. Imagine you're leading a tech startup, and your product development team is working on a new app. Meanwhile, your marketing team has been gathering data on what customers actually want, but there's little communication between the two. As a result, your developers might build a product that doesn't align with market demand. By the time you realize the mismatch, it's too late and the product fails to take off. Silos create internal vulnerabilities because they prevent the free flow of information and collaboration. Vigilant leaders actively work to break down these barriers, fostering communication across the organization to ensure that everyone is aligned and working toward the same goals. Another major internal vulnerability that can creep in on organizations is complacency. When things are going well, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that what worked yesterday will keep working tomorrow. But in today's fast-moving business world, that's rarely the case. Let's look again at Kodak. They were the undisputed leader in photography for decades, but they became complacent. They assumed film would always be the dominant medium, even though they had the technology for digital cameras. By the time they realized the world was moving on, it was too late. A vigilant leader knows that success can breed complacency, and they actively combat it by encouraging continuous improvement and innovation. It's about never resting on your laurels and always looking for ways to do better. Now, once you've identified internal vulnerabilities, the next step is building a culture that actively addresses and prevents them. This is where leadership plays a critical role. You need to foster an environment where people feel comfortable speaking up when they spot a potential issue, and where continuous improvement is part of the company's DNA. Encourage open communication and transparency at all levels of the organization. Create channels for feedback, where employees can point out inefficiency or suggest improvements without fear of retribution. By doing so, you'll create a culture where vulnerabilities are addressed before they become critical. Look at Toyota's famous Kaizen philosophy, which promotes continuous improvement by involving every employee in identifying inefficiencies. This culture of vigilance has allowed Toyota to remain one of the most efficient and innovative car manufacturers in the world. Every organization has internal vulnerabilities. It's how you address them that makes a difference. As a vigilant leader, your job is to identify those weaknesses before they become critical and to foster a culture where potential risks are openly discussed and addressed. By doing this, you turn your vulnerabilities into strengths, ensuring that your organization is agile, resilient, and prepared for the future. In the next lesson, we'll explore how vigilant leaders scan the external environment for threats and opportunities, and how you can stay ahead of the competition by looking beyond the walls of your own organization. But for now, take a moment to think. Where might the cracks be in your organization's foundation? How can you start identifying and addressing those vulnerabilities today? The answers could help secure your company's future.